All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Mr. Feldheim, you'll lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. First item on the agenda is to approve our agenda.
Second.
Motion by Weiss, second by Gage. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. This time, we'll open the meeting up for any public comments. Does anyone wish to address the commission this morning on any topic that isn't on the agenda? In-house, out there online, or on the phone? Seeing none, we will move on. Next up, Michael Lacapetti, close. Project developer with Invenergy LLC. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for meeting with me today. Just wanted to come and share a little bit about Invenergy, who we are, as well as the Great Places Wind Energy project that we're working on here in Brown County. For myself, I've been working for Invenergy for about a year, but I have over a decade's worth of development experience prior to this. I love what I do. Come a long way since my first job as a 14-year-old working as a Little League baseball umpire, so it's been a ways to go. Some other people on our team that we have here, Molly Malone, who's our manager in local community affairs person. She's living here in Minnesota, not too far. We have our local land agent, Wes Robinson, who's here in Aberdeen. He's been helping with speaking with some of the landowners locally. My boss is Monica Monterosa. She's our director of renewable development, and she oversees North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota. And then above her is Dan Litchfield, who oversees a larger portion of the Midwest. So for Invenergy, we're the world's leading privately held clean energy company, and as you can see, we're involved in a lot of types of energy. Primarily wind is our bread and butter. We have about 118 projects. Solar, we have about 52, and then we're also involved in things like storage, natural gas, and then some clean water energy projects. Here, specifically, since Great Places is a wind energy project, I'd like to talk a little bit more about wind. And we have 118 total projects, which is just over 19,000 megawatts worth of energy that's being produced from the operational projects. From our projects. In operation, we have 108 projects currently. We have 6 projects in construction and 4 projects that are currently contracted. We are a global company, so we're in many countries, but primarily the bulk of our projects are here in the United States. And part of the portfolio is the Great Places Wind Energy project. And to give you a quick overview of our project, we're estimating that we can be operational by 2028. I can get into some of the timeline here in a second, but by 2028 we can be operational. The size will be up to 250 megawatts, and we're planning to interconnect to the Twin Brooks Ellendale line, the 345 kV in the MISO region. And we currently have over 29,000 acres of privately owned, voluntarily leased land across the project. The location of the project is a little bit north, just along near Frederick, up near the border there. And when we work with our landowners, we share as much information as possible with them. Sometimes it takes some time to give them everything they need to feel comfortable with signing up with our project. Part of Invenergy's approach when talking with landowners is to just give information and then let them make the best decision they can for their family and go about it however they'd like. There's plenty of people who slam the door in our faces, and that's fine. We move on and talk to other people and see if anybody else is interested. So everything that we have currently signed up to date is voluntarily leased, and we plan to continue doing that. Right now we have just over 29,000, but we're targeting maybe about 40,000 acres total, if we can do that. So we're pretty well along in having land signed up for this. In addition to land, once we get more and more, we start moving into our environmental and engineering studies. Part of our development process is going through looking at wetlands, topography, wildlife, noise and flicker assessments. We look at communication towers and proximities to different things. So there's a lot of different kinds of studies that we do. That starts once we get enough land, and we're in the process now. Most recently, we have the meteorological tower approval from the county, and we received the CUP and the building permit for that as of last week. We got the official building permit. So we're hoping to have that built before the end of the year, and then that'll help us start to collect weather data that's going to help inform how we can best design the project in the future. So we're really excited about that. The environmental studies, we're hoping to kick off some initial avian bird studies coming up in the next year. So we'll start with that, and then we'll just continue through the development process. So looking at the timeline, from 24 to 26 is roughly our estimated development timeline we have. As I mentioned, we're leasing land, we have the meteorological tower installation, there's environmental and engineering studies that happen through that, and then we also go through county and state permitting as needed. And then throughout the entire process, we're taking in public feedback from landowners, from other organizations, yourselves here. We're trying to communicate with you as best we can to better understand how we can design a project that fits for the local community as well as what Embenergy is trying to do. And then once we're done with that, we finalize our layout, and we have all our approvals. Then we move into construction. And the construction period, it can be anywhere from a year to 2 years, depending on the complexity of the project, depending on how large it is and how we can do that. So we allot about 2 years just to be safe to try and get this constructed. During the construction phase, we have close coordination with all of our participating landowners and surrounding people in the area. We're sharing construction schedules, the way the construction process will go. They won't construct every wind turbine and every access road all at once. They'll move in phases from one to the next to the next to the next. So the entire project area won't be a construction zone all at one time. It'll be done in different parts and different phases, and we'll notify our landowners throughout that process, so they're in the loop with everything as part of that. And then once we're done with construction, we obviously move into operations. The project is expected to be 25 years, the life of the project, and at the end of the 25-year period, we'll evaluate the function of the equipment and the facilities. And if we'd like to extend it, maybe we need to replace or upgrade or maintain them. And then we'll continue another 25 years. Or the other option is that at the end of the first 25 years, if we desire not to continue, then we'll decommission the project. And part of the permitting process, we'll have a decommissioning plan, so you see how that process will go. We haven't created the decommissioning plan yet, obviously, but in the future, that's part of some of the information that you'll be receiving from us as we're continuing through. So,
Question on that.
yeah,
Tell me, kind of walk me through, like, when you do have a decommissioning plan.
Yeah.
Can you kind of walk me through what that does look like?
So part of the decommissioning plan is going through and how we're going to dismantle the turbines, how we're going to haul everything out. It talks about how far in depth we go into the soil to remove any underground material. I think I'll double check, but I think it's up to 3 feet below grade we'll remove everything 3 feet below grade. From there, I believe tower foundations for the turbines will stay in place. It would be too destructive and disruptive to try and remove that in that process, and they're deep enough that they shouldn't affect any kind of farming ability or any kind of crops that you have there. Throughout all this process, with our landowners, we do have some crop compensation, so if we damage any crops in the process from landowners, we compensate them fairly for any acreage that was disrupted. That's during development, when we're doing our studies. That's during construction, if there's any residual or outside damages. And then throughout the process, we have our road use agreement with the county, with townships, on if we're using either county or township roads. And that's just the agreement that helps us better understand the parameters and how we're going to be using the roads and the repairs that'll be done to the roads after, if there's any damages, and so on and so forth. So looking forward to working with you and putting something together.
And just kind of a follow-up on that.
Yeah.
So when you're done, from what you said, you'd be able to farm over the top or graze over the top of where the tower used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then would there just be like a gravel road that would stay there?
How
does that work?
The road will be removed as well, the
Okay.
access roads.
Okay.
They're permanent for the life of the project.
Okay.
And then the access roads should be removed as
Okay.
well.
Thank
They
you.
reseeded and all that is part of their decommissioning?
I believe, I can find out. I don't know exactly. I don't want to tell you wrong, so I can find out.
As part of their decommissioning, I've had some people mention that they have options of getting paid to leave the concrete footings in their pastures or whatever and above ground,
Mhm.
or they have it removed. Is that options your company offers to these farmers?
I haven't heard of that, about leaving, the foundations for the most part are pretty far beneath the ground. You know, we'll look at the soil types and see if we need a buoyant foundation if the land is wet. But I could find out, and see if we have that too.
I've had a couple people mention that, they call, so.
Okay.
When you come into a project, what's your footprint, acres of land for one tower, let's say? Road and everything considered?
It depends on how far into a parcel the
Yeah.
location is.
Yeah.
So, okay, let me see if I can remember. So I'm working on the South Dual Bend project in Dual County right now, and to give you an idea, I think we have roughly 30,000 acres, I think, signed up, and then only permanently impacted acres is, what, 51 total acres?
So you're
Maybe.
you're paying, like, let's say you come into a quarter of land up
Yeah.
on the, up in the Elm River Valley, I'm assuming kind of where they're gonna go. You're basically leasing the whole parcel of land and then only utilizing what you need for the tower.
Exactly. So we we lease the entire parcel of land, and then we're only installing permanent infrastructure, which would be the turbines, the access roads, and then underground collection to connect all the turbines and run the energy from one to the other to get to the substations into the grid. So there will be land that we signed that has no facilities on it at all, but they're participating in the project that helps with setbacks to make sure that we have the space to do it, to put a wind tower there. It also helps with some environmental and other engineering spacing for the equipment. So the way we usually approach designing the projects is we'll start with looking at an area and say, where's all the places that we can't build a tower? And what do we have left over to work with, and can we design a project within this that works for the landowners, it works for us, it works for everybody involved?
So you have to, I never even thought about all of them have to be connected.
Yeah.
Cause, okay. And then, what was my other question? Come back to that.
Okay.
You're gonna have like your own control station and then the feeder lines.
Yeah, we'll have an operation and maintenance building, that'll be somewhere in the project area, don't know exactly where yet. But they'll be monitoring everything, they'll have maintenance crews out there. Sometimes the turbines will be shut off for them to do their maintenance and then turn back on. And then we also monitor all of our projects from our headquarters in Chicago, where we can see all the data, the weather, and we can shut down turbines if needed remotely from the Chicago office. So we got a lot of eyes on the projects, and we're monitoring them 24/7.
So I could touch on the decommissioning portion of it. Historically, when you put those plans together, is that funded or bonded, or how was that?
They are bonded.
Okay.
Yeah, they are bonded.
Okay.
And at the end of the 25 years, does the farmer then have the option to have or the landowner, I should say, have the option to have it decommissioned at the end of the 25 years? Is that all spelled out in the contract in the beginning of it, whether you have the option to extend that, or?
Yeah, so our landowners sign up for the full 50 years. So in the middle, it's Invenergy or the project owner's choice to whether extend it or not. So when they sign up, they're signing up for the full 50-year term of the project.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So then they don't have, at the 50 years then,
That's
a dead
that's
stop,
the end of it.
we're starting from scratch.
Yeah. And in 25 years, technology is always advancing. We don't know what the turbines are going to be looking like at that time, right? What kind of tech is in them. So, that's a decision we can really only make once we get closer to that timeline.
And then for the decommissioning, is there a specific place that you guys normally take it, or would that be absorbed into our landfill infrastructure, or do we know that?
I don't know that. That's a good question, though.
That'd be something that we would have to look at if we're prepared for those waste in 25 years and preparing for things like that.
Okay.
Be interesting to know.
Okay, great.
How many towers are you anticipating in this project?
I can't give you an answer on that. It depends on how much land we have signed up. To give you an estimate, or to give you a comparison, South Dual in Dual County right now, we're gonna be constructing, I think, up to 58 turbines. It's a 250 megawatt project, similarly, same megawatts. But the wind energy resource, how strong the wind is, could be different there than it is here, and I'm assuming it is. I'm based on the information I've seen, I think it is. So that is gonna play into how many turbines we have and how it's officially defined.
We're windier.
By far.
Yeah.
So is that the only other county that you're in, then, is Dual County?
We have an operational project there in Dual County, and then just below it is our second project we're working on there. We have our project here in Brown County, and then we're working on our project Phillip Wind, a little bit closer to Pierre. That's another project that we're working on currently, too. So,
I got a question about the, obviously we got, you know, towers to the west of us, towers to the east of us here, and then a handful of years later, we're coming in and presenting this project, and I don't know exactly where it's at, but I got a general idea. I mean, why hasn't this happened sooner, I guess? Is it a little less desirable of a setup because of the wind, or is it all tied to the big Stone to Ellendale line that had to be here first?
A big part of our projects are interconnection. If we can't get the energy into the grid, that's, you know, we can't build a tower, wind energy center anywhere. Also, the development timelines are pretty lengthy, anywhere from 5 to 7 years sometimes before we're even into construction and into operations. And part of what Invenergy does is we go through a significant amount of diligence leading up to that to make sure that we're designing a project that's the best it can possibly be. We overstudy things. We have, I don't know how many teams that I'm working with and coordinating with, from engineering, environmental, and so on, that we're in constant communication with. So it's a long, lengthy process. So I think initially with this Great Places project, we were first out here in 2021. Initially, you know, talking to landowners and having some land signed up, and there was a full year there where some things died off. We weren't sure if interconnection was going to be a possibility. So for about a year, nothing really happened with it. And now we're back into it again, and we've been talking with landowners and, you know, having them voluntarily sign up if that's something that they could do.
So, like on a project like this, is your company, and there's no tricks here, I'm just trying to learn, but I mean, is your company got, okay, we got this and this, and you're looking at the data that's available on wind and environmental and that, and then you're like, hey, here may be a spot that has an opportunity where a project would work, and then you take that spot and then start through the process.
100%. That's what we do. We look at it, we say, we think that there's good wind resource here, we have a good potential to interconnect and bring this into the grid. The land and a desktop, we do a lot of desktop initial research with the data that we have for topography, soil types, all that stuff, and we say, all right, we feel that we're fairly confident this could be a good spot for a wind project. And then we go out into the field and talk to landowners and see if anybody's interested, and, you know, go through that process.
The Aleutians are really windy, but you can't get the wind, you can't get the energy, right?
Yeah.
Scott?
When you said you had 29,000 acres, does that include some in North Dakota side of the
No,
border? That's all
South Dakota. Yeah. And just to mention, Invenergy is also working, thank you for bringing that up, we're working on our Ellendale project, which is just north of the border in Ellendale. As well. So a lot of the same landowners own land on both sides, and, you know, we're working with them too, so, yeah.
Are you the operational entity or just the developmental?
We do everything. So we develop, construct, own, and operate. We always try to have ownership in our projects. Part of, in addition to the interconnection and to have a project be successful, part of it is our offtake and selling it to somebody who, you know, we need the financial backing to be able to do it. So we oftentimes have outside investors who come in and they own part of the project. In Invenergy, we do our best to still be an owner in it. If we can, majority owner. It's not always the case. It depends. Every project's a little different. But yeah, we do, across the board, we do all of that.
So what we're talking about, that safe assumption that your partners for interconnecting on this one would be Autotail and MDU on this, since you're connecting to that line?
Most likely Otter Tail, so
Right.
I would imagine.
And then you mentioned Ellendale, and my understanding is that they've got a project to extend that line from Ellendale to Jamestown. It's about the same time frame as your project.
Yeah.
So it gives them greater access to more markets.
Yep.
Okay.
When these towers go up, the landowner, do they have to own the mineral rights? Because it gets to be kind of a thing where if the landowner has the mineral rights sold off, and you put a tower there, and they
Mhm.
decide to come in and drill, what do they do with your tower? So that's always been an area that, that I would think that the landowner would have to own the mineral rights instead of somebody out of Denver, Colorado, or wherever it be.
Mhm.
And I guess I often wondered if the wind towers are the same way, because on solar panels, has to be that the landowner has the mineral rights. Because you have all these solar panels, and all of a sudden somebody from Texas decides to come and try and drill for oil,
Yeah.
who has the right there?
Yeah, and I think where wind and solar differ a little bit is solar takes the land out of production, whereas wind, you can still use it, and the space that we're taking up is real minimal, on the land, so farmers can farm right around it and everything. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I haven't heard of that for wind. I think it's more of a concern for solar. And usually it has to do with priority as far as leasing goes. So if the landowner signed a lease, maybe, let's say, they can still have other easements on their land, but since our leases are priority, then we would just ask that whoever's coming in after kind of work with us and how we're, are making sure that they're not affecting negatively our project in some way. So that's a good question, though.
Okay, I understand we have someone out there online that has a question. Someone,
Chairman, this is Scott over at the Emergency Management Office.
go ahead, Scott.
Just a couple quick questions for the gentleman. Do you train first responders for response to these towers? I've done some work with Ellendale up there, and I know first responders, normally wouldn't be climbing and stuff like that, and if things catch on fire, a lot of times you just let them burn, but is there basic training for our first responders from your company?
There is. We have our operation and maintenance building, and they run, I think it's every 6 months or maybe once a year. As an example, we have our operational North Dual project in Dual County where they do that. They have first responders come out and they run through regular training, and that is a thing that we do.
Okay, thank you. And then you say there's going to be a maintenance building with folks on hand. Will there be somebody from a company, not necessarily yours, but will they be stationed in the Brown County area as part of this, a maintenance supervisor or something that would be on call?
Yeah, and I'll get to that in a second, but we'll have estimating 5 full-time local employees from the project, and they will be local working there, so an operation and maintenance manager and then some support staff there too.
Okay, and then, Mr. Chairman, I guess I missed the first part of this. This is up in the northwest corner by the Frederick area, is that what it's called?
Yeah, this is near the Frederick area.
Okay, thank you. That's all I got.
Thanks, Scott. Anyone else out there online that have any questions? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Another part of our wind projects, one of my favorite parts in working on these projects is our engagement with the community. We support communities and, we're involved through local sponsorships and events and, fairs, rodeos, 4-H education stuff for some of the youth locally. And, each community is different, and we recognize that, so we want to work closely with you to see how we can best help the community here. On the right of the slides there's a couple photos. An example of this is in Dual County for our North Dual project that's currently operational. We were working with one of the landowners who wanted to set up a scholarship fund for some of the local kids there, and we partnered with the landowner, and we've contributed, it's a 300 megawatt project, and we contributed $30,000 annually. To date, about $120,000 to it, on top of, that's just from Invenergy, and that's on top of the funds that the local landowners have been able to participate in it. And this past summer, I had the opportunity to present those awards to the kids, and I was able to talk with a lot of them. And there's some really bright and creative kids, and they were so grateful to have the opportunity. I remember one young gentleman I spoke with said that, without this kind of help, he wouldn't be able to go to the college that he wanted to go to. And it's that kind of stuff that really is rewarding for me, and I know a lot of people on our team, it's our favorite part of some of this. So we try and be involved how we can, and we're looking forward to doing that. We just sponsored the Brown County Fair this past summer for the first time. Really excited about that, and hoping next year we'll do the same and continue on through the development, construction, and operation of the project. In addition to the community engagement, we also have some economic opportunities that are brought on from the project. There's going to be hundreds of jobs during construction. As I mentioned, about 5 full-time local employees during operations. We're going to continue with local involvement, sponsorships and events, and then any other kind of initiatives that maybe come up throughout the process from the county or townships or local communities here. And then there's also the payments that we issue to our landowners. Those will be in the millions for the project, as well as there'll be millions in tax revenue to Brown County, the townships, school districts, and the state of South Dakota. Those numbers are hard to estimate right now this early in the process, but based on our South Dual project and South Dakota, some estimates are that the county will see about $290,000 annually during the life of the project, and that equates to about $7.2 million over the life of the project, which is 25 years. The townships are looking maybe at about $125,000 per year, and then that's about a little over $3 million. So all in all, about $10.5 million over 25 years that we're looking for the county and the township levels. And I guess that'll conclude here. I know we answered questions throughout this, but if there's any other, I'd be happy to continue answering them as best I can.
I assume these projects are centrally assessed for assessment purposes.
Yeah, I think they are.
Okay.
I'm curious when you have, I'm sorry, Mike.
No, go ahead.
I'm curious when you have opposition, non-landowner opposition. I get it if you go to somebody's house and they don't want it, and that's cool.
Sure.
But non-landowner opposition, what are their topics usually?
It ranges from so they don't want to look at it, right, which are understandable. The environmental concerns, noise that comes from the turbines, some shadow flicker that comes from the turbines. I would say those are some of the top ones that we commonly see. When we get negative comments or negative feedback from any landowners or concerns that they have, we're really quick to speak with them to try and better understand their concerns and either try and do what we can on our end to mitigate those effects that they might be experiencing. Part of our due diligence is making sure that we're set back from non-participating residences, and we have shadow flicker requirements and noise requirements. We try and keep those low. We'll go through different things if we see that somebody's being affected by shadow flicker, as an example. We'll try and work with them to try and mitigate the effects that they're experiencing. We do everything we can in our power to work with them and try and find some middle ground, even if they might not be in favor of the project.
Primarily aesthetic things. I mean, it's just how it looks or how it sounds, and
Yeah. Those are, I'd say, probably the most common ones.
Does it seem like the cattle are bothered by like shadow flicker or noise or anything as
Not-
far as grazing in pastures?
Not at all. Honestly, a lot of them love the shade that the towers give them. I know you'll see them lined up in the shade there. So, yeah, I don't think they're opposed to it at all. Can't speak on behalf of any cattle. I haven't had a chance to speak with them before.
Well, you understand.
Yeah.
I've got a question, and I don't mean it as a gotcha question. I sincerely am kind of interested because, in today's political environment, carbon indexing is a big deal about the impact, everything from livestock producers to farm, and we get that pretty frequently even in our practices on how we're managing road maintenance and construction and those type of things. How does a project like this get scored, and what impact does that have on, your negotiations with potential partners?
That's a really good question, and I don't know the answer exactly.
Okay, that's a fair response, but if you could get some information, I'd
100%.
appreciate that, because that's a question that's always been in the back of my mind is, we're continually pressured on CI scores for, how big an impact and how important that is in partnerships in the geopolitical arena, and I'm just curious to see how that impacts or how that's measured in projects like this.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
That's a good question, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Mike?
Well, environmental impacts, that includes impacts to wildlife and things like
Mhm.
that. Those studies are being done.
Mhm.
Obviously, these things are gonna kill some birds and...
Well, we do our best to try and stay out of flight paths, and we look at the studies, see how active avian, species are in here. We're not in control of it, so we do our best to make sure that doesn't happen.
You're looking at like the main flyways for all of the
Flyways
migrating
for all
birds.
migrating patterns, yeah, all that
You're
stuff.
gonna run into a lot of that.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that is factored, nesting. A big part of our economy is pheasant hunting and numbers and things like that.
Yeah, it's a significant part of our research. So that's what next year we're hoping to kick a lot of those off. So as we get more information, that's exactly the kind of stuff that really helps us in designing the project. And it really informs kind of where we can and can't go, what avoidance measures do we need to put in place to try and protect those species, and so on.
And that might be something to look into, maybe. We talk about economically putting back into the economy, local economy and stuff is, nesting grounds for pheasants, where maybe we're taking away when we put a bunch of wind towers up in a pasture, and all of a sudden, birds aren't nesting there and things like that. It can kind of become an issue, I guess, so.
Michael, I've got a question on your 29,000 acres. Is it optioned or is it a solid lease?
No, it's a lease. It's an easement. It's an easement.
You already have that easement. It's not an option that expires in 3 years or 5 years.
No.
So you've already put money forward to these landowners?
Yeah, they get payments during development, and then they also get payments during operation. So they're being paid for nothing on their land right now, just to
But if all of a
participate in
sudden,
the project.
well, we're not gonna put the wind tower there, they've collected on that until that point.
Until that point.
They would get additional payment if and when the wind tower actually is on their property then?
Yeah. Not every landowner is going to have a wind turbine on their property.
Right.
But there's additional payments for that.
And in fairness, Mr. Chairman, just so everybody is aware, and I appreciate very much you guys are doing the right kinds of things, you being here and laying out what, your potential plans are and so forth. You folks have been to planning and zoning very recently and got approval for a conditional use permit for a meteorological tower to collect data to analyze, I'm assuming some of the final development stages, the feasibility of putting this project together in this location. Is that correct?
Yeah. The meteorological tower is there to capture the wind and weather data, and that's a huge part of designing these. So the longer those are in place, the more data we collect, the better information we have, and the better we can feel confident in how we're designing projects.
Great. So like I said, you're doing the right kinds of things to be here, be very transparent about what you're doing, what your history is, and where you're going with this project.
Yeah.
And availability for conversation about, being good partners as it develops, so.
Always, you have my number, you can give me a call at any time, and I'll do my best to answer questions you have.
Excellent.
I think part of the reason Mike says that, not to put words in his mouth, but we've had, I don't know if you know, we've had some entities coming into the county, into the area, and, trying to shove things down people's throats, and don't do that. Just don't go there.
No, we don't. Everything is all
It doesn't appear that way.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The people of our, we've found that the people of our area are very, very loud and will do everything they can to make sure that their way of life is protected, so.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And this is part of the regular conversations we have with landowners.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being here today.
Yeah,
You bet.
thank you
Thank
so
you
much
for
for
information.
listening. Appreciate it.
We as a county will work towards, we don't currently have a wind energy or wind tower ordinance on the books.
No, we do.
We're gonna
Working on improvements.
update it or make sure it's current, and we're looking at other counties' drafts so that we get it right and so that we address the issues through that ordinance, so.
Okay. Appreciate that.
More to come on that. We appreciate your information, and It's good information, so.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Do you have an extra packet? Oh, yes.
Michael, if you don't, I can print one out. If you don't, I can.
I got one here. Yeah, I can have this one, because I've got a couple copies of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Chris Kendall, Dakota Prairie Museum Director. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
By the way, I think wind turbines are super cool and futuristic. And also, we have in our collection for molded fiberglass a model wind turbine that actually works. Because history was yesterday, as you know, so we gotta collect that too.
Generate electricity?
Nobody uses electricity. But it is, it's about this tall.
Fair question.
Yeah.
No.
All right, well,
Morning.
so, hey, snowblower, must be there. So I wanted to share with you our plans, that the museum, the staff, and the foundation board, the Dakota Prairie Museum Foundation, which you know owns the collection and is our fundraising arm of our institution. So the foundation board and the staff feel that the time is right to begin the first stage of a capital campaign for an addition. As you might recall, we attempted this in 2008. 2017 wasn't either the right economical, environment, or it wasn't the right board, I think, at those times. So too much time was in transition. So, but right now, according to our architect that we have a relationship with, Brad Civarella from Mitchell, construction costs have stabilized. Bids are more competitive right now, so it seems like the economic window is better, probably better than it's been for a while. Our issues are, lack of collection storage space, lack of programming space, and a desire to tell more of our stories of the county. We want to tell them more fully, and we want to use more of our collection to do that. We only have 4 to 5% of our collection on display right now. So the foundation board recently voted to accept a small collection, but a high-quality collection of animal specimens from the estate of Dean Buntrock, who graciously and generously offered to remodel one of our existing galleries to showcase this addition to our natural history collection. So it'll be a new, interactive, well-done, innovative exhibit. It'll shine a light on our museum and work really well with what I believe is already our growing reputation of being an exciting and meaningful part of our county and our regional community, which is one of our goals. So this donation, along with that favorable economic climate, has led our foundation board and staff to reinvigorate our institutional expansion plans, which leaves me to ask permission from the county, from the commission, that we can have the use of the parking lot that is to the west of the courthouse and to the north of the museum. It's about 11,500 square feet is what I've calculated. It's about 75 by 150. So, well, our current building, which we do want to keep as part of this, the staff feels, and the foundation board, it's a physical representation of Brown County history, and then our future of record keeping. It actually sits on the first claimed plat of downtown. That was the Bliss Hardware, 1881. So Mr. Bliss set up a canvas tent and started doing business, and that was the first downtown business. It was the first downtown plat that was claimed. It was strategically placed kitty corner from where the railroad was going to land, where the depot was. So we feel like we are sitting on the history of Brown County with our building. So I invite the commissioners to come into our building. We would love to show you our space needs, our programming needs. We do the best we absolutely can with what we have, but we always want to do more. We always want to do better. That our work is engaging and enriching to us, and we hope it is to our community as well. So I also invite any questions that you might have. I have some more information, and hopefully I can share that with you if you have questions.
So your plan is to use approximately 50 feet of the existing parking lot for your addition?
Our plan would be to use the entire parking lot. It would not be with building, but it would be with, we need a loading dock, we need an apron for that, we need some green space for downtown. I think that's important. And then, yeah, I'm not thinking a box next to it, but something a little bit more interesting with a little bit of green space, some nice big windows, and some community space as well. And that's what we want to be too. We want to be more of a community space. Right now people think we're just a museum, and we're not. A lot of people come to meet up at the museum, but if we could provide even more community space to do that, that would be helpful for our...
You think about like a meeting space where people can hold meetings or...
Like a community gathering, I should have said gathering instead. So, if I can just elaborate a little bit on our future addition needs and wants. We want to have that welcoming atmosphere where you come in and you say, well, meet me at the museum, you know, before we go do our other thing. We've got a little place where you can sit, there's big windows, there's a little coffee or a snack shop right there that you can have something for you or your kids or your family while you're waiting or before you explore the exhibit. An expanded children's discovery area, expanded exhibit space for traveling exhibits, expanded programming space. As I've told you many times before, you know, we have school groups come through. And in about 2.5 weeks between April and May, we have, you know, 1,500, 1,200 kids come through. We'd love to have expanded space for that, for our camps, for our workshops. Recently we had Groton Day, and we had the mayor of Groton come and talk, and people from Enrich Groton talk. And then one of our donors of our glass plate negative of Groton's Main Street from 1890s talk. And it was standing room only in our conference room. We could have accommodated more people. Like I always say, we can sit 35 comfortably and 50 uncomfortably in our conference room.
Go ahead.
So right now you have, you know, all the exhibits on the second floor.
First floor and second floor.
Would your plan be to move that stuff off the second floor and bring it down to the new addition, or to leave it where it's currently at, or a combination?
Sure. So the plan would be, and obviously these plans are, you know, there's so much more to do before you actually, you know, have finalized plans for floor plans. But the plan would be to keep the exhibits that we have, but expand them. So if we're going to be having more rotating exhibit space in our new addition, then our current exhibits could be expanded, and then we could tell a larger indigenous and native story. We could have a dedicated art gallery instead of rotating things in and out of that. We could tell more Brown County town stories, which is, we're trying to do that right now. We're moving the Squire Gallery to do that. So we would still use that space. We would use it better, and then in addition, we would use our new space to tell more stories. Because like I said, we only have like 4 to 5% of our collection on display right now, and the goal would be to have more on display and more fully tell those stories.
Go ahead, Mike.
Question to get to the nuts and bolts of things, and
Sure.
I was involved with both of the last 2 attempts.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why when it was originally asked to me, like, you know, you were interested in half the parking lot, you know, my reaction was, well, they're gonna need to take the whole parking lot.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, in order to do that, from my experience working through that process the last couple of times. The foundation is hugely pivotal, because this wouldn't be even possible for consideration without the resources that the foundation has, and has the potential to access going forward. Where's the foundation's situation and vision for ongoing support for such a project if it comes to fruition, because it will entail additional staff, additional utilities, and upkeep and those kinds of things. And with the limited resources that we do have going forward, I very support the mission of the museum and the outreach and your folks
but I'm just curious what kind of ongoing support that foundation is willing to be able to participate in, should this come to fruition, if that's been part of the conversation yet, or...
It is part of the conversation, and what we understand is that you raise funds for a capital campaign, but you raise funds for a sustaining endowment. And I would never ask the county to, take on additional financial commitment for our plans that you are not making. So it would be a sustaining endowment then, that a percentage of that would go to the county annually, that would cover those additional costs, or at least, a good portion of them. So it would be additional staff, and it would be additional utilities and upkeep, and if we had a green space, somebody's gotta mow it, right? So, and all of that, yes. So that is part of the plan, and it is, you include it in your capital campaign to fundraise from the start. You have to be very clear about that.
Good, thank you.
Because if you buy a new car, you still have to get the gas.
That's right.
Yeah.
You own it.
Yeah.
Good.
This
All right.
proposed building site, is that gonna be a single or two-story, or what are they gonna match to the old building, or
Yep.
has there been any talk of that yet?
Yes, full basement for collection storage. So it's not the same footprint, it'll be a similar footprint, but it would be, about 7,000 square foot would be the footprint. Not necessarily a rectangle, not necessarily a square, but that would be the footprint, and then 3 full stories. And in addition to that, we were hoping to have a space, like an event space, that we could monetize, and then those funds would also go to the county. So we would hopefully be able to generate, somebody's always looking for reception space. People are willing to rent the clubhouse, in Centennial Village, and do all that because you have receptions and parties and things like that. And we want to include that in our plan. Which of course is, then you gotta have a kitchenette, and then you've gotta have, a coat room, and then you've gotta have additional bathrooms, and all that goes together.
But like you said, when you have gatherings,
Mhm.
really pressed for space, you really don't have a space that's convenient for more than 15 people.
Well, yes, right. For meetings, 15 to 20, and then for, we have our book talks, and we have our educational programming. We could set up maybe 35 chairs, and it gets cozy pretty fast.
Way to
people show up.
envision the space, and it wouldn't necessarily be a mirror of it, and not competition, but a complement to what the library has available for public meeting space for a whole variety of different events.
The library has a wonderful space. Ours would be similar, but it's different aesthetically, because I can't really see them having like a wedding reception there, where I could see that we could have a wedding reception in ours, in a cool space.
Good information, good plan. What's your timeline to your capital campaign, once it kicks off? Do you have a goal as to when you hope to achieve your...
Yes. So we've just been talking, and I'll just, preface it by saying I'm not an expert in these things. But the quicker you get it off the ground, the quicker it gets done.
Sure.
And you can't let up off the gas. So I'm hoping that this year, by this summer, we have significant resources to start, to finalize a plan, and put shovel to ground, hopefully by later this year.
Next year.
This year. Oh, next year. Yeah, it's already 2025, by the way. It has been for months.
We're close,
Yeah, we document history, but we're always planning.
Sure.
We're always 3 steps ahead.
So, from a practical standpoint, it's roughly, give or take, with dedicated parking spots for museum already and so forth, 25 to 30 parking spaces that we're gonna have to figure out that
Yes.
parking's a premium here already, that we're gonna have to figure out something about trying to augment what we have for available parking for the public.
Correct. And, we do have the county lot, that's the corner of Railroad and Main Street. And it'd be like half a block to walk. And I know at Walmart, you're willing to park a mile away because you can see the entry. And if you can't see the entry downtown, you get really upset when you gotta go around the block 3 times to find a parking
Well,
spot.
it's kinda like the joke, they have a swimming meet at the YMCA, and people are mad that they can't park at the front door to go and work out.
Yes, well, but hopefully hopefully, and I realize, you know, that might be a little bit of PR
Mhm.
massaging there, but the benefit of having an expanded cultural institution hopefully will offset any grumbling there might be for, I have to walk now across Railroad Avenue, which, you know, it probably would require, you know, a crossing walk then too.
Right.
That would be
So you're not putting in a parking ramp?
No parking ramp. There's a history of that.
We've talked about that in the past when we were looking at these projects.
Yes, and hopefully maybe Everett can have a downtown parking ramp at some point.
That's all
But you
right.
know what, the ward isn't that far
Got
away.
one.
And they have one.
Right.
And during certain hours, they have public parking in the ward
Yeah.
parking lot.
So no, I appreciate your efforts, and I'm a proponent, just make sure that we're all totally transparent about all the implications and so forth that goes on here, so I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So this is step 1 of 100. Because we can't do anything if you don't bequeath us the parking lot. That's pretty much what it comes down to is you gotta have something to build on.
Mhm.
So that is my request today. And whatever else you need from me, if you need more information from me, if you want to take a tour of our space, I absolutely am open to that. We love to show off what we have.
You and your staff do a good job with the space that you do have and the limitations that you have. I remember not so fondly what the basement used to be 30 years ago.
Yes, yes.
That was a no-go zone for good reason.
I would say in the past, even since 2007, when we had the flood here, you know, there's always a silver lining. Yeah, our space is actually upgraded from that time in the basement. Happy to take you through there too.
And now since last year, we're hooked back up to the sewer line, so life is good.
Appropriately.
Can I say thank you again for fixing my sewer? Yes, I know, it's
Surprise.
I know. You know, it's a 135-year-old building, and it's doing really well for its age. It's very well, very sturdy. And we've had, you know, the fire inspector, we've had our architect from Mitchell, he stops by often. We consult with him whenever we want to do any structural changes. And then we had, you know, in 2022, we had the collection assessment for preservation, that grant that we had through IMLS. We had the 2 building assessors come through, collection and building assessors, and they also gave us a detailed report, which I think I shared with you at the time. And the things that they have suggested, we have implemented or will be implementing.
Very good. No, you and your staff do a great job of keeping it up and keeping it interesting, and
Thank you.
get a lot of good comments from a lot of people, so good job.
Appreciate that, and we try to be an opportunity and advantage to the county and not a detriment in any way, so. Those aren't the words that I really wanted to use, I wanted to use better words than that, so.
You're an asset to the
There we
community,
thank
and we
you.
appreciate
I want to be an
that.
asset to the county and to the community, without, you know, taking more than our fair share
Okay.
of allocations.
Well, speaking for myself, you know, I'm in favor of the project, and I'm in favor of dedicating the current parking lot to use by the museum, so I guess I would poll the rest of you and see if there's any objection. Is the motion warranted? Okay. Entertain a motion to commit to the use.
Quick question. I was wondering, in your capital campaign, would there be a way to help offset a different parking lot, such as the one to the north, as far as paving that, to bring that kind of to where people would be more willing to park there than
I thought about
the
that.
gravel lot?
I thought about that. Now, what you will have to do, parking lots need to be paved and asphalted on a regular basis, and ours was it last year? So, 2 years ago, so probably in a year or two or so, it probably would be due, so those funds would be spent anyhow. But in part of our capital campaign, green space is an attractive way to encourage people to park with the designated parking. And yes, that would be a consideration that we would love to contribute to a green space within your parking, within the county parking. But since those funds would probably be spent in the next couple of years anyhow, you know, bumping it up a year or two would probably work? I could ask Dirk.
Yeah, we can get a better estimate when we get closer.
I could feel him, I could feel his eyes over here saying, yeah, asphalt, I just have that laying around, I'll just come right over and do that. But yes, we would partner, but I don't think we would, the foundation would. We can have that discussion as well.
And get some further estimates and see if it's
Yes,
doable.
yes.
So,
And it would, to the benefit of downtown and to all the businesses downtown, having that parking lot done and dressed up a little bit with some green space would add to downtown's viability, the vibrancy, we want more people. Actually, you want a parking problem in your downtown, that means people are coming and it's busy and commerce is happening and programming is happening. A downtown that doesn't have a parking problem means that no one is going there.
Right. All right, any other questions for Patricia?
Is there a rough total, I guess, on the capital campaign?
9.5 and 5 for the sustaining endowment.
And is that the construction estimate too?
That includes, 9.5 includes construction, FF&E, fees, design, and collection storage components, which are special, because you just don't put your fine art on a shelf. You put it on a grid wall rack, you hang it, and it rolls in and out, and it goes together, so that you can store it.
It's environmentally controlled.
Environmentally controlled, yes.
So you have the language you need for a resolution of support, I guess that's what you're looking for here, or what?
I can draft one up for next week, but have a motion today to approve it.
Pursuit of the concept, you know how you want to word it?
Ross?
Figure it out. Basically, a resolution of support to allow the museum and the foundation to continue to pursue the project, and would be willing to sacrifice the parking lot towards that project if it comes about.
And did you want to put a timeline on that? That's the only thing, like, if this doesn't come to fruition within so many months or whatever, that we would reevaluate and re-ask. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that out loud perhaps, but on your behalf, I'm also a county employee, so I also want to think about the county stance on that.
Well, I'd like
You and I can work together on it.
Well, let's do this, let's put it on the agenda for next week, but I for one, echo the chairman's sentiment that I'm in support of it. There's still things to be determined, but, for consideration next week, some of the language that can be discussed about a resolution of support, if that helps your foundation move forward, you know, confidently that they're gonna have the support if they can make this happen to dedicate the parking lot towards that. Is that reasonable?
Yeah.
Because I can't start until
Right.
I
Yeah,
have
commitment,
space.
right.
Right, so
Yeah.
I have not raised $1.
Yeah. Well, no, I support with, you know, a few tough questions and, you know, be a change in things and stuff, but, you know, I'm also a little hesitant to vote on something I can't actually see what it says.
Correct.
Is that okay?
If you-
Come back
Good.
next week.
Yeah.
Add it to next week's agenda.
Anybody who's got any input towards that, you know, especially you,
Mhm.
participate in working with that with Lynn, is that all right?
Yep,
Okay.
and you're making a motion to defer it for a week.
I don't think we need to make a motion, we can just,
You can just table it.
Just add it to next week's agenda.
are we asking? Yeah.
Good. And then ask me all the questions, because the more things we take care of now, the less we'll be surprised later.
Yeah.
Some more may come up between
Yes.
now and next week, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Very good.
any project, you know there will be
Yep.
surprises.
So, I may be wrong, I don't know that we need any action today, but we'll discuss it and, you know, recommend we put it on the agenda for consideration for action next week, if that's okay.
That's true, and I just also need to know that if you would do any, what would it be, surveying of the space, or whatever the infrastructure is underneath, or anything like that.
Well, there's surprises in the ground here,
Yeah.
I'm confident of that.
I'm sure it's just nothing underneath, right?
Right.
Just dirt.
We've had that experience already here.
Bricks and pipes and God knows what else.
Might find the other end of our sewer line.
Where it's been going all these years.
Well, it looks like a burial ground.
It could be, yeah, the county courthouse may have some, some feeders over there
Yeah.
as well.
No, good presentation, I appreciate the work that you're doing and not to forestall things, but to do it properly.
great, great. And then I also invite Scott to call me later and ask me questions. Yeah, I'm sure he will. All right, yep, and absolutely, you can come over anytime and we'll show you around. And I'd be happy to do so. Anytime.
All right.
All right, well, thank you for your time, and I will talk to you next week then.
Thanks, Patricia, and thanks for your foundation for that work.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Invite Mr. Locketti over to look at the museum, might be a good partner.
Paved parking lot across the road. Put a sign up there for him.
Yeah, there will be a list.
Send it over.
You want to be on it. So, but also maybe you want to come and see our model wind turbine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
There
so
you go.
we have that.
I didn't catch that.
We'll plug it in for you. So, yes, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, discuss court-appointed attorney contract. It was in the packet, we received it last Friday. Ross, have you had a chance to look it over?
Thank you.
I talked to the attorneys.
Okay.
There's some details that we want some changes, but it's not worth doing that unless you guys are good with the number, so I was gonna wait and see what we have today.
And they realize that we're continuing to pursue the public defender
Yep.
creation.
Yep, those are some of the details that we would have to work out.
Right.
But if the number they quoted wasn't acceptable, then there would have been no need to do that, so just waiting on you guys to decide whether or not you wanna go down that road.
And if we don't, starting January 1, the judges will appoint counsel.
Yep.
So we're covered either way.
Yep.
Just the unknown is what that will cost versus the projected cost of the contract.
Correct.
Thoughts on the proposal?
Potential action is to accept the contract as presented with the ability to be able to negotiate some of the finer points.
Yeah, the termination, once you guys get the public defender's office up and running, how would that work? Would that person that you hire take some cases on the front end?
Transition and notice.
Those are just all things we need to think about, is the transition.
Right.
Remind me what the contract for this year that we have with the dollar figure.
I don't remember, if you have to go look, I don't even have to look. I think we were right at 800.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're at, and that's where we're proposing to stay at the 800,000.
That's what I thought.
Motion to approve.
So, yeah, it was 5 attorneys, 800,000.
It sounded like that historically, that when we went back to the other system, it was always more expensive, so I think locking it in would be a better one, so I'll second.
Okay, with a motion and a second to approve the contract with some potential negotiated changes.
Yeah.
One thought I have, with us pursuing the public defender's office, with the possibility of having someone hired towards the beginning of this year, do we want to lock ourselves, and I'm not really advocating one way or the other at this point, I'm more asking the question, do we want to lock ourselves in for a full 12 months, or would we rather try to negotiate that down either to a month by month, or to 30 days? 30 days.
We can terminate.
We can terminate notice.
Okay.
30 days
Notice on
notice,
your
we
file.
already have that out, so
Okay.
if we get to July 1, we realize that by September 1, for example, that office should be up and running, and
Okay.
give them notice that
Then,
September 1 is the cutoff date. So that's our out, the way I understand it.
Yeah.
That's what you guys wanted, the sticking point, then.
Yes, and it's not gonna be additional, this is my thought, I mean, it's up to you guys, but that at that point, they have to complete the cases that they've already been paid for, and there won't be any additional fees coming in from them for that.
Right.
We want to make sure the contract states that specifically. So when we get to the negotiating table, that'll be part of it. And anything else that anyone thinks of between now and then?
Is there a particular commissioner or two commissioners that you want looped in on this as we go?
Drew and I are currently serving on the Public Defender Committee.
There you go.
If you want us to sit in. that right with you, Drew?
I guess so. That'll be fine.
Another meeting or two a week?
There you go.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If you think of anything else that we want in that contract that, get a hold of Ross, we can, when we get to that point, we'll sit down and negotiate the final terms.
So I suspect this is something that we'll have to have a budget supplement, because you're actually gonna have two things going on at one time. You're gonna have the contract going on, and then you're gonna hire
Well, we did a
public
budget
defenders
proposal.
off. You know, I guess there's an area there that I don't think anybody has any idea what that number's gonna be, depending if it's 6 months, 8 months. You're gonna hire these people probably 3 or 4 months by the time they all come on board, paying them a salary. So, I guess,
There'll be overlap if we're successful.
Yeah, it's kind of an unknown right now.
$650,000 for budget for court-appointed, or public defender's office.
Mhm.
And then we did figure in the court-appointed attorney budget as well.
So we've already budgeted for both, knowing that we would have some of that overlap, so realistically, we should have covered the lion's share with those two line items. But again, that's the unknown, depending on how fast we can get that public defender's office up and running. So, any other questions? Not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Let us know when you want Drew and I to sit in and negotiate. We'll bring our legal minds to the table. Yeah, we're in trouble now. All right, Nick.
Sorry, what's the amount on the contract, or how's?
$800,000.
Right at 800,000.
For next
Next year,
Okay.
5 contract terms.
Is it like, so if it's 6 months, is it 400,000? I mean, or is it just 800,000 flat?
It's $800,000, and we divide it out between the 5 attorneys.
Yeah, but
And then they get a monthly stipend.
Monthly basis.
Okay, so if you have if after 6 months the public defender's
Yep.
office is established, then it's basically $4,000.
Prorated.
Prorated, so to speak.
Yep,
All right,
yep,
all right.
yep. All right, next up, John Lemke, Chief Deputy Sheriff, and Josh Lee, Deputy Sheriff K-9 Handler. Good morning, gentlemen.
You didn't bring the boss today?
I didn't. He is the smart one on the end of the leash, that is for sure.
Well, we are here with a proposal to request using some of the opioid settlement funds to purchase some equipment for the sheriff's office. We have a proposal. You guys want me to read for the record the whole thing, or I think you guys should all have a copy.
We all got a copy,
Reviewed it.
yes.
Okay.
You can abbreviate it.
Just
do that.
touch on the high points.
Yeah. So basically, we're looking to use the opioid settlement fund for critical drug interdiction technology to aid the fight against fentanyl, xylazine, heroin, and other opioid deaths. Law enforcement, we're basically the first line of defense in preventing opioid deaths. Last year, law enforcement in Brown County responded to around 36 overdose calls for service. One of those that the sheriff's office assisted with the Aberdeen Police Department, there's multiple individuals there that are actively overdosing on an unknown substance. They were transported to the hospital. Thankfully, they all made it through. The hospital, though, had asked law enforcement to try to identify the substance that they were overdosing on, at which point that became a safety issue for those officers. They had to transport that bag of substance to the police department, put on all kinds of protective gear under their hood in their evidence room to test it, open the bags and actually test the substance. Whereas the Detectichem opioid assessment kit that we're looking to purchase with this does it without opening the bags. I think it's laser.
It's all laser, yeah.
Laser spectrometry that will shoot a laser through the bag and tell you what the substance is inside the bag. There's currently other agencies, at least 3 other agencies in the state that are using the opioid settlement fund for this technology. Corson County Sheriff's Office, the Yankton PD, and the Vermillion PD. I think that's kind of the high points. Anything I missed on those?
No, the nice thing about this is it'll give us a probable cause report in less than 20 seconds. So roadside, right now we have to physically test and swab these substances with our little test kits that we have, which aren't cheap in general. I think a pack of 10 are running about $40. And we use those pretty often. So yes, it's a larger purchase, but we don't know what we're testing at that time. Do we have an inkling of what it is? Yes, but also cocaine is very similar to fentanyl. So if we're opening these bags, windy, roadside, the stuff's getting airborne.
Puts you at risk.
Puts us at risk. I don't know if you guys have seen the videos of the officers getting the fentanyl overdoses roadside and just collapsing, which, a lot of times in the county, we're by ourselves. If we're down and we have a drug distributor or user, and, it leaves us at risk as well. So this stuff, you'd be able to just test through the bag. It's all laser spectrometry. It'll give us a probable cause determination of what that substance is without having us in contact with the substance at all. So it's a pretty nifty unit. Detectichem, and then there's also a TruNarc device that are kind of the big players in this technology. The nice thing about the mobile Detectichem that we're asking for, it'll test organic substances too, so it'll actually, with the legalization of marijuana and stuff and hemp, it'll test marijuana flower, it'll test the mushrooms, it'll tell us if it's hemp or THC or CBD or tell us what that is, where the TruNarc's just powder substances. So the TruNarc's actually a little bit more spendy than this one is. So this will give us more opportunity to test everything. I think there's a catalog right now of like 24,000 substances that it tests, and it has continual updates and customer support and stuff that is free. It's included with that for the lifetime of the product. So.
Does it also include potential explosive substances and that type of thing too?
Yes.
Reading here,
Right.
the library includes
Yep.
drugs, narcotics, chemicals, explosives, and says more, so.
We also had a training recently where, a lot of these explosive matters are, if we test them with our acid-based test, it can actually ignite that explosive too. So, which we don't know what it is. We're testing the roadside thinking it's drugs. If it's an explosive, it's just gonna blow our hands off, basically, is what the training said. So,
Sure.
I guess it's a risk we take at the moment, but something we don't have to take that risk in the future. It'd be nice. This would obviously probably be assigned to me, and we assist the Aberdeen Police Department, Groton PD, Highway Patrol. It'd be available to use basically anywhere on this side of the state. We help numerous agencies get called out all the time. So yeah, it'd be available to everyone around here. So.
From a legal standpoint, I don't know if Ross or Carly are out here. Carly, are you out there? I know 3 other agencies in the state seem to have used their opioid funds to purchase a light piece of equipment. And do you have any concerns regarding the use of those funds for this purpose?
I think we'd ask these guys to come in with a take on which part of the approved use of opioid funds this would fit under. I'm not sure if you guys were able to identify one.
Yeah, talking to, the canine handler in Corson County that got approved for their county, he got a opinion from Social Service Division of Behavioral Health that said the funding would fall under Section H, Item 13, which is the supporting of screening of fentanyl and routine clinical toxicology testing. And I would say it also fall under the aid in the education implementation to other first responders on appropriate practices and safety handling these dangerous substances, which is Section I, Item number 1. I believe, based on what other agencies are doing, what we'd be using it for, I think it would fall in what the approved uses are for those opioid funds. So if we get audited, I think we can show that what we're using it for and that it's working for us to not only protect law enforcement on these overdose deaths, but just the community in general taking this stuff off the streets, so.
Legitimate use of the funds.
Correct.
And there's sufficient funds to cover.
Up to you guys.
But from a legal standpoint, you don't think we're stepping over any boundaries that
Shouldn't be.
it appears anyway?
Yeah, if other agencies have done it and there's an opinion from a government agency saying it fits, I would be comfortable with that.
So I believe our total amount that was made available was around 100,000, is that right? We've already committed 25 to another use. So if we commit another 35, for example, or whatever the number was.
We were up to 131,575, and
Okay.
spent 25,000, so you're at 135,75 right now.
Okay. Have we been contacted if there's any other potential recipients of any of those dollars that we're aware of at this point to keep in mind?
I started some discussion with some local agencies about naloxone training and supplies. Those are very preliminary. I wouldn't expect that to be too expensive. I know there was a webinar recently that some of us either attended or investigated, and that was one of the primary uses they recommended to put those dollars to the best use. So that would be something I'd be interested in, but again, I don't think it would be much of a chunk of what's left.
Okay.
And we were told that this is going to be going on till 2028, roughly is what they're expecting that we'll be getting money in.
Some of them till 2038, I think is what she says.
All right, okay.
And then it's front-loaded because some of the defendants in these lawsuits are paying more upfront just to be done with it.
Yep.
And some are stretching it out, so
Sure.
the bulk of the funds will be in the next 10 years, I would say.
Full disclosure, I will say there's been some pushback in the media with these types of devices, so maybe be prepared for that, some questions.
We like questions.
Did you sit on, wasn't there recently a meeting or something about what we can spend these funds on?
Yeah, that was the webinar that I was talking about.
So it was extremely vague.
Yes, right now,
Okay.
she's gathering data, and she's gonna send out a report once they visit with each of the counties.
Good.
And then they're gonna send out a recommendation and what they think and what others are doing, so.
Well, I can say that I haven't been on here as long as you two have been, but these are extremely, the hardest monies to figure out what you can spend them on. It's just ridiculous.
From a
I think
broader
this is
sense,
a-
it's drug interdiction and
Yeah.
treatment, and, from a broad sense, I think it qualifies, but...
I think what they're doing is a great idea. I'll make a motion to approve it, and we can fight it out with them later, but I think it falls under it, in my opinion.
I'll second with further discussion.
Okay, we have a motion by Gage, second by Weiss to approve the expenditure. I agree that with the seriousness of the fentanyl issue in particular, it would be nice to know what we're dealing with before rather than wish we would have, so.
You've got the quote in front of you, that's
Yes.
the purchase price, and it comes with a 1-year support and warranty.
So this one includes, it'll be 5 years total. So it has a 4-year extended warranty. It's the $32,925 with the full 5-year warranty.
Mhm.
It was like $24,900 with no warranty attached to it. So.
The extended 4 years is another 7 and change.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in today's world, technology is
It's a business.
pretty
That's
quick.
just,
Yeah.
how much is it gonna cost if something happens to it?
Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
366, we're sitting there with a very expensive paperweight.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Then just to clarify, your boss and you're trained for drug detection, right?
Yes.
And that's the extent of it.
Yep, yeah, I mean, my main priority with the sheriff's office with the canine is drug interdiction and how to stop and find these substances. And these guys will come in, they'll actually do a training on the device itself and do that, get me certified with that. And then there's always support if we have a questionable detection or something that we need support. They have a 365, 7 days a week, 24-hour support that we can send the results to, and roadside they can get back to us what for sure we're looking at. So.
I think they're coming, is it this week or next week, to
I believe
Corson counties.
Like December 19th, they're gonna set up and do the training in Corson County, and they said we could do a demo.
They do a demo here, and we invite any of the commissioners that wanna come watch the demo to come watch the demo too.
Good, let us know.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Tyler.
So if you, do you go out on all the drug charges or drug stops currently if there is drugs found?
Not all of them, no.
Okay.
I would say probably a majority
yes, but with my schedule and my abilities, I'm one call away. If these guys if they find something, I'm living in town here now, so if they find something, I've instructed them just to give me a call if you need help. I can be there in 5-10 minutes.
So the stuff that they're pretty sure they know what's going on, they probably won't call you, but
Yep.
any question at all?
Absolutely.
Would
Yep.
it be a help from
Yep.
a liability standpoint?
And I've been part of numerous investigations where we find, a baggie of a white powder that we're not able to find any test on, that we can't get positive. So, with the library on this, it'd be nice to know what we're looking at. Is it flour, is it a baking product or
Powdered
something?
sugar.
We don't know. Right now, if we have something that we can't get a preliminary test on, we have to send to the state lab, and it's months before we know, and we obviously can't make an arrest on that, and so.
All right, any other questions? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for bringing us forward, and thanks for
Appreciate all your work on
dedication.
this.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Good luck. All right, moving on to consent calendar. Lynn?
Approval of the general meeting minutes of December 3rd.
Move. Second.
Motion by Denner, second by Weiss. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Plain?
Move. Second.
Motion by Gage, second by Denner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All neighbors felt that. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
HR report.
Move. Second.
Motion by Denner, second by Feldheim.
We're really in sync today.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
We need more holidays.
Travel request.
Move.
Motion by Weiss, second by Gage. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Approve and authorize chairman to sign the fair contracts which were confidential until released.
Move. Second.
Motion by Feldheim, second by Weiss. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Authorize advertising for budget supplement hearing.
Move. Second.
Motion by Weiss, second by Denners. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Landfill Chinese report.
Move. Second. Third.
Motion by Gage, second by Weiss. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. You're making my job hard.
You're welcome.
Set date and authorize advertising for special event temporary license for Aberdeen Chamber of Commerce.
Move.
Motion by Denners.
Second.
Second by Weiss. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Any other business to come before the Brown County Commission this morning? Do we need an exec? We do need an exec for legal. HR did not notify me, so I don't believe we have any personnel issues.
What?
I know. Surprised me too. The HR report will suffice today.
Move.
Motion by Weiss.
Second.
Second by Feldheim to go into executive session. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now the light is back
Thank you.
on. Back in session, out of exec with no action as a result. Anything else to come before the commission this morning? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Motion by Denner.
Second.
Second by Feldheim. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.